Hey there, I'm Randy Cross, and this is Unsafe Spaces. Want to thank you for joining us here. Season 2, Episode 6. Got some fun and games coming up for you. Not only a little commentary and whatnot, then we'll go into an interview with Amy Trask, former CEO of the Oakland Raiders, among other things and other accomplishments. We've got a little wambulance, we've got a little sports. We've got a little bit of everything for you. But like I mentioned, I'm going to be talking to Amy Trask. And if you're not familiar with who Amy is and the job that she used to hold, check out this little clip.
What's the biggest public misconception about your old boss, Al Davis?
Oh, excuse me. That one's easy for me. That he wouldn't tolerate disagreement, that he wouldn't harbor anyone who disagreed with him, because if that were the case, I would have been fired 2 or 3 weeks into my job. And about 2 or 3 weeks in, I was in the room with another employee, and Al came in, and Al just laid into this employee like I can only imagine a velociraptor ripping into human flesh. And I realized he was wrong. So after a few minutes went by, I said, "Excuse me, you're wrong." And he yelled, and I yelled, and he yelled, and I said, "Look, if the underlying facts were as you believe them to be, your conclusion would be correct. But you're wrong about the underlying facts." And he yelled, and I yelled, and he yelled, and he cussed. But after we went back and forth a few times and quite loudly, I learned later that people came out of their offices and were standing in the hallway. One woman even later offered to help me pack my things. But after we were done, he looked at me, he said, "I gotcha. Okay, I gotcha."
So we'll have a nice conversation with Amy coming up. But let's kick this thing off. And I want to bring up another football-related subject. Number one, it has to do with a gentleman who you may be familiar with. Name, Johnny Manziel, former Texas A&M quarterback, former Cleveland Browns quarterback, wants to be back in football. And the vehicle he's going to use will not be the CFL as speculated. He's going to get into the spring league and try to prove to NFL folks that he still has what it takes to be an NFL player. Spectacular career, Heisman Trophy winner, did a lot of unbelievable things. He did have issues, or does have issues, with substance abuse, and he says he's recently been diagnosed as being bipolar, but he's decided to work on a comeback, and he wants to use the spring league as that vehicle. And the spring league is not a very well-known entity. It is a vehicle. It is a means by which players can get in front of scouts and can get their skills out there. But nowadays, there's little for the literally thousands and thousands of players that go from college, major college, FBS, FCS, whatever level you want to talk about, and there's a lot of them in college football. They go from the end of their season, their careers are over. Now, if they could have an outlet, that would be fabulous. Now, the Spring League is an option. Take a look at this map. Here is a map of all 32 teams in the NFL. Now, I had an idea years ago I would like to sort of rehash, and that is the idea that you have 32 teams. I would cut those 32 teams on that map into divisions, as we normally already have. 4 teams in each division, right? Well, those 4 teams, we could do it geographically, or we could do it by means of how they already have it, north, south, and whatnot, east, west, in both conferences. And they have every 4 teams shares players, and these are current players, these are future players, these are coaching candidates, these are officials in the front office as possible candidates. You could have a possibility of getting officials extra work and sharpening their skills. And this would be a springtime type league. Every 4 team, every division shares in the costs. They play about 10 games. And this is something, we saw it in the World League. We saw it in NFL Europe. We saw it in a lot of different entities. But I think it's time to bring this back. You have these teams, they don't play in the major cities. So they wouldn't play in LA, or they wouldn't play in DC, or they wouldn't play in Chicago. Play in college towns. College towns all have big stadiums. Let's have them play there and share those costs. It would have to be a very bare-boned thing to start with, but I think it's got possibilities, and I'd love to know what you all think about it. Go to @UnsafeSpacesUSA on Twitter and let us know, or go to producer@UnsafeSpacesUSA.com and let us know what you think about that idea. Coming up next, Amy Trask. All right, welcome. As promised, we're joined right now by Amy Trask, one of my favorite football people, one of my favorite CBS colleagues, and former CEO of the Oakland Raiders, current CEO of the Big Three Basketball League, and author of You Negotiate Like a Girl, which if you haven't read it, check it out. Amy, welcome.
Wow. Thank you so much for having me, Randy. I am a big fan of yours. I was a fan of yours on the field, even on days when I wanted nothing more than to beat you. And I'm a fan of yours off the field.
Amy, I remember some of my trips into Oakland during your term, as CEO, working with Al. And you guys, the unusual thing about how you guys did business back then was you were, I think, light years ahead of almost every other NFL team, in that you were so dedicated on A, defending your brand, B, defending your fans, and C, interacting with your fans and engaging your fans. Does that sound accurate?
Randy, I have long believed, and this is something I shared with Al over and over and over again throughout the course of my career. Without fans, there is no league as we know it, and perhaps no league at all. And I never understood why more people around the league, with the organization, with the league office, didn't cherish fans the way I did. And I will always remember the president of another team saying to me, Amy, every time we play you, whether it's at your stadium or at ours, I see you in the stands with your fans. I see you there pregame. I see you there during the game. Why do you do that? And I looked at this man and I said, why don't you? Without the fans, there is no league.
Yeah, that's very good. And that's why I say light years, because we've come in kind of a full circle thing where re-engaging the fans and that fan in-stadium experience has become so important to the league.
Agreed. And I think there needs to be more recognition by each and every team, as well as by the league office, that fans are to be appreciated and to be cherished. And without them, there is no league. And you referenced defending our fans, ours, of course, referring to the Raiders. I did, and I do. And look, the Raider fan base is similar to the fan base of 31 other clubs. Really, really, really good people with a handful of knuckleheads who simply didn't or don't know how to behave on game day. And one of the things that was very, very important to me and was a top priority, and my number one initiative for many years, was making sure that our fans and our fan base knew, be passionate, be impassioned, come be spangled, be dazzled, be jeweled, but respect the people around you, and inappropriate behavior won't be tolerated. And what always bothered me was people thought that those issues were unique to the Raiders. And of course they weren't. Every single fan base had a handful of people that just simply didn't behave appropriately. And what I loved the most was when I undertook this initiative and made it my top priority, my biggest allies were Raider fans.
Yeah, it's always interesting to me that what people see, they automatically extrapolate from there. We're seeing so much of it now in our world that's driven, unfortunately, by social media reactions and unfortunate interactions. But, if you have a picture and you see what somebody looks like, you see some guy painted in silver and black with spikes on his head and shoulder pads with spikes on his shoulders, just vociferously screaming for his team, people perceive that as threatening. And they don't do any investigation as to what the person's like that's in the picture.
Well, and by the way, I took league executives and I walked them through the stadium because I think a lot of that stereotype, and you've accurately hit upon it.
Not in the dreaded black hole. You didn't do that
Well,
with league people, did you?
I sure did. And I walked through and I said, you see that woman that looks like she might eat you? She's a district attorney in the South Bay.
Yeah.
See that man who you would run away from at 440 speed if you ran into him in the parking lot? He's with the Department of Homeland Security. So you are 100% correct, Randy. Appearances can be very deceiving.
Hey, you're involved in something very fascinating right now. I mentioned in the introduction, CEO of the Big Three. Can you sort of describe to fans what it is it's sort of become and what it will be here this coming season?
Oh, I sure can, but I will tell you my title, and you got it right in terms of what has been reported. So your research is, as always, stupendous. But some of that which is online is no longer accurate. I'm actually chairman of the board.
Okay.
And by the way, I like to look at my colleagues and say, that's chairman of the damn board to you. It's a very, very exciting concept. And we're going into season 2. All of our games will be broadcast live and will be played at prime time. We've signed a lot of new players this year with many more banging on the door. And what's been a lot of fun about that is the line sort of, you look out and say, okay, men, line forms to the left. Players are actively banging our door down to join the Big Three. And what's been very, very eye-opening to me, Randy, is this. I always understood how beloved the game of 3-on-3 is in this country. You can't go by a park, a beach, a court without seeing 3-on-3. Heck, I live, as you know, near Venice Beach, and people are playing 3-on-3 half-court basketball 24 hours a day. What I didn't fully understand, and I do now, is how beloved this game is around the world. 3-on-3 half-court basketball is played in places I never stopped to think about the game being played. So there's tremendous interest in China, in India, in the Middle East for us bringing 3-on-3 there as well.
It's an unbelievable concept. It was I noticed a story in the news here recently. Lamar Odom had sort of made a comment that he would love to play, and Lamar's had some demons in his past. And one of your cohorts, one of the founders, Ice Cube, the mega entertainment complex, which he is, made a comment that, hey, if Lamar gets his stuff together, we'd love to have him in the Big Three. Would that be sort of an example of some of the players that want to be involved?
Well, I think Cube stated that beautifully, and Lamar has articulated a desire to join us for quite some time now. He's articulated that desire. And Cube said, if he gets in shape and he's good to go and he can do this, come on out. We'd love to see you play. And one thing to share with you about Cube and co-founder Jeff Quantinitz, they really and truly want to help these men in their next chapter. So yes, it's a great game. And yes, the game day at which fans enjoy 4 games on one day with a lot of entertainers popping up in the crowd and singing throughout. It's just a spectacular day. But it's more than that to Ice Cube and to Jeff Quantinitz and to all of us. It's about knowing these men can still play and can still contribute. And when you look around at the men we have coaching and playing the game, these are truly legends of the game who can still play. Now, sure, they're playing in a half court, not a full court, and the games are shorter. But one thing that has struck me throughout is the level of competition at these games, competition between and among the coaches. And by the way, the one person who may threaten me for that trash talking title is Gary Payton. I don't think
the glove.
Yeah, right. But the coaches, the players, I mean, they're out there to compete. There's nothing showy about this. It's fierce competition on the court.
For 2018, so when are the dates? How long will the season last? Just sort of give us the basics.
Well, we're going to be starting up in June. We're looking to announce the dates fairly soon. We've got a really fun video out on big3.com, and Ice Cube has tweeted it, and I've tweeted it, and Jeff has tweeted it, asking fans to weigh in as to cities to which they would like us to visit. And we're going to stick with the same format. It's going to be 10 weeks, 4 games each week. As I said, they'll be broadcast live, and we're also going to stream one of the 4 every week. So that'll reach parts of the world where people really do enjoy this game.
Hey, how have you enjoyed the television business? You're involved in the other pregame show, the Tops program on CBS Sports Network on Sunday mornings. How have you found that?
Well, this may be more information than you want me to share, and please feel free to give me the over-the-phone proverbial throat slash gesture if you want me to stop. Okay. But being on television is facing my biggest fear. Cameras have always terrified me. If you look through my family albums, it's kind of a joke in the family of where's Amy? It preceded where's Waldo, because I would see a camera and I would run the other way. And sideline pregame, almost 30 years in the NFL, I would see a camera, particularly a video, a moving camera come towards me. They always used to laugh that I could run as fast as Al Davis would like, a 4.4 or 4.3 40 speed getting away from the camera. So I'm facing my biggest fear, and that's kind of exciting now that I'm learning to do it. My first year on CBS Sports Net, the great linebacker Bart Scott was my teammate, and he literally, not figuratively, but literally held my hand under the table throughout the show because I was so scared to do it. And everybody at CBS Sports Network and CBS Sports has been magnificent in allowing me to learn this at my own pace.
Yeah, I've also noticed that you're expanding a bit. You're starting to do a little blogging and videos and things like that to sort of, I guess, embrace the camera a little further.
It's a slow process. I never, ever, ever thought I'd do it. Randy, when I left the Raiders, when I was in the process of making that decision, I was self-aware enough to say to my husband at one point, look, until I make my decision as to whether I want to stay with the team or leave, I'm not going to be able to decide what it is I want to do next. Fair enough. And when I did ultimately leave, I woke up the next morning and I looked at him and I said, I'm officially a blight on humanity because I have nothing to do.
I am adding nothing, zero value.
Right. And I was ultimately, fairly soon thereafter contacted by CBS Sports Network. And I just said, what the heck? And it's been a very, very slow learning process.
Hey, one of the main reasons, besides talking to you about your stuff, with the Raiders and TV and the Big Three, that I was looking so forward to having a chance to talk to you, you are in this social media world that we live in now. And I even hate to even use those terms, but it is accurate. You're very much a kind of a calming voice of reason, because you're one of the few people I have out there that I follow and read regularly that always uses a term that isn't always, I guess, adhered to. And you talk about civil discourse. You talk about actually having a conversation with people. And if there's something, I've started doing interviews here the last 3, 4, 5 shows that we've done, podcasts. And a theme of that has been sort of the lack of civil discourse. But you, for one, have been somebody that wants to really bring that back. Why is that?
Well, a number of reasons. We're never going to solve problems unless we're able to engage in considered and reasoned and reasonable discussion. It's okay to disagree. Out of disagreement, when it's healthy and productive and constructive, can come solutions. But you got to figure out how to disagree agreeably. I can disagree with something you say without making that into a personal attack, which then derails the thought process and the conversation. I do believe in civil discourse. I advocate it. I am passionate about it. Reasoned, reasonable discussion and agreeable disagreement. And that's something I've talked about on Twitter since I started. By the way, as a footnote, just as when I left the team, had you told me Aim, you're going to end up on television, I would have said, Randy, I will bet you any amount of money there's no chance whatsoever I'm going to be on television. I would have told you the same thing about Twitter. When CBS Sports, when I joined and they first said, do you want to start on Twitter? No, never, never, never. I'm not going to do it. Never, never, never. And now it's as if I've found my mothership. I love my Twitter village. We really do embrace civil discourse. When we disagree, we do so agreeably. And I will tell you, there have been at most a handful of times, so 5 times over the course of my years on Twitter now, where someone has said something that doesn't fall within the definition of civil discourse or agreeable disagreement. And in each time I reply and I say, you know what? You can make that point without being mean. You don't have, and I use a word that we used when we were kids, which is don't be mean.
Yeah.
And in each of the times that I have done that, with the exception of one, the person has responded and said, you know what, you're right. I can disagree with you without being mean or nasty. And we've turned it into a positive discussion. So my experience on Twitter is that when you have someone who wants to express himself or herself in a nasty manner or disagree disagreeably or not engage in civil discourse, if you point out to them that, it's okay, we can disagree, but let's do it reasonably and responsibly and agreeably, they respond back and say, you know what, you're right.
Unique idea, unfortunately. You think the media will ever catch on to this?
Well, you know what? We can all start a movement. And that's what I say all the time to my Twitter village, which is we can lead the way. Every single one of us who engages in reasonable and reasoned discourse with people with whom we disagree, we can be the people to show the world how to do it. Imagine if everyone around the world learned to share their views reasonably, to engage in civil discourse, and to disagree agreeably. We could solve a lot of problems.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Hey, Amy, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate for taking the time, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Well, as I said at the outset, I'm a huge fan of yours. I was a fan of yours on the field, and I'm a fan of your work off the field, and it's been my privilege and pleasure to join you.
Thank you so much.
How you doing when it's tough?
Thank you so much, Amy. Really appreciate it. Like I said, she's fabulous. Let's move on now to a little Unsafe Spaces sports news. It's not often we have major sports events that happen all the time that really get engaging with fans. And I think the best example of that is the AT&T Pro-Am. Now, I played in that the last couple of years. It was the Bing Crosby tournament. And then I played the first couple of years, it was the AT&T. So I guess that makes me officially old. Kind of like this guy right here, Bill Murray. What an ambassador to fans for the game of golf. Does he do everything perfect? No. Mark Wahlberg engages fans like crazy, but nobody does it like Bill Murray. Not even Justin Timberlake. Sorry. A lot of heartthrobs out there, all that stuff. Bill Murray's got a face for radio and a heart of gold. Check this out.
Well, it's very nice to meet you. It's a real honor. It's a real pleasure. Good meeting you, back. You hang in there. Hang in there. Who did this?
Your face is in jeopardy.
Oh, wait, is that your buddy? No.
Bill, can you
Can you
sign
eat that whole thing by yourself? Oh, here.
Bill, can you sign it?
Not his bag, by the way.
No, look that way. That's the camera over there.
Thanks for coming out, but we appreciate it.
Yeah, this guy can have more fun doing that, and it's fantastic for the game of golf. Heck, it's fantastic for all the charities, and enjoy him while we have him is all I'm going to say. Just a fantastic plus. What a great guy Bill Murray is. Another thing we should enjoy while we have it is Winter Olympics. And there's one event at the Winter Olympics that's already happened, and a couple of gold medalists already, and that's the half pipe. Number one, the guy that used to be known as the Flying Tomato, Shaun White, saved it to the last run, his third run. And let's check out the highlights on that, because it is something what he did in a pressure-packed moment to win a gold medal.
Half an hour ago, I thought this would be a cruiser run for Shaun. Now,
this is where I like to see Shaun backed into a little bit of a corner. Oh my, possibly land. Here comes a giant backside Delvin McTwist 1260. That was cute. Coming in here to the bottom. Will he do it? There it is. Front side 1260.
90s, you've got no problem. Well, guys, we've now got 5 guys in the 90s.
This is great. This is snowboarding, ladies and gentlemen. This went from being... Watch me. I'm going to go 18 feet out of the pipe on a double McTwist 1260, a qualifying run. This is getting good.
18.8 feet is what jump out of a 4-story window and drop down to the rock hard snow. He averaged just under 15 feet on each hit.
This is so Shaun answering back to Scotty James with his own back-to-back 1260s.
Whatever you can do.
Yep. Shaun White celebrated after. He's never claimed to be perfect. He made some mistakes, made some comments that he's apologized for. Actually brought the American flag out there at one point and ended up dragging it in the snow. Has apologized for that also. But what a showman. 3rd gold medal in the half pipe. Congratulations to him. And on the other end of the half pipe, you might say, Chloe Kim, 17-year-old American who also won the gold medal and in pretty spectacular fashion. If you don't enjoy looking at stuff like this, you're just not like me. I love this, and I think mainly I love this because gravity's been such a hindrance to me. I could never even think about getting up in the air and flipping and McTwisty and all those other things that these unbelievable athletes do. Check out Chloe.
No math needed for the 17-year-old out of Torrance, California.
Her last run, she was assured the gold medal. So this was just for grins and to show off.
First of my hopefully 2 1080s. Let's see the second, Chloe. 80s. Front side, gold medal already around her neck, but
Perfect 3 for 3.
man, oh man, Chloe Kim, we wanted to see her come out here and throw down. We've seen her all season long, but for you guys watching at home, new to snowboarding, Chloe Kim is the future.
And good for her. Chloe Kim gets herself a gold medal. Fantastic job. And thank you as an American that just loves to see that kind of stuff at the Olympics. It's a lot of fun. Something else happened, our final story in the sports world this week that you might not associate with sports. It's 4-legged. It's not a horse. It's the dog show, the Westminster Dog Show, 142nd. And I find it entertaining. I find it fun. It's a dog. I love dogs. And, honestly, I'm going to subject you to this only because I love these dogs. Check this out.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the 7 group winners competing for Best in Show at the 142nd Westminster Dog Show.
Bichon Frise.
Best in Show at the 142nd Annual Westminster Kennel Club will be the Bichon Frise.
Lindsay Van Kuren.
Yeah, let's give credit where credit is due. Darren Ravel, who's a media writer, on Twitter last week, like I'm talking about Saturday or Sunday, before this event happened, which was Monday and Tuesday, or Tuesday and Wednesday, he made the comment that this dog was going to win. And I don't know. I don't know if they're fixed, but congratulations for calling that. I find that extremely impressive to be able to call what kind of a dog wins. Now, the reaction to the Bichon Frise, a little crazy outside of Madison Square Garden. Schnauzers rioting because of the dog show results. I am kidding, by the way, so just relax. I found that picture very, very entertaining. All right, that'll do it for the world of sports. Let's move right on into the Wambulance alert. Butt hurt. Okay, I'm going to set a scene here. You've paid your money. You've gotten your window ticket on the aisle. Window ticket in the nice leg room area, exit row. You're ready to go. You're going to see everything. You're going from San Francisco to Honolulu, and you can't wait to get to Honolulu because you're starting your Hawaiian vacation. Well, here's how the end of your flight finishes. Yeah, check that out. That's your view out the window. They call those things that go around the engines cowlings. Well, the cowling fell off. That's the view from that window seat on the exit row of the airplane's engine as they're approaching Hawaii. Now, thankfully, it didn't happen too far out, and it didn't have any real physical, well, obviously it did some physical harm, but it didn't have any mechanical harm to the plane. Check this video out.
Images posted on social media have shown the damage caused to the engine of a United Airlines plane's engine as it flew from San Francisco to Honolulu. The images showed the engine completely stripped back, with apparently half an hour left until it was due to touch down. The plane issued an emergency distress call but made a safe landing in Honolulu, according to reports. Horrified passengers looked out their window to see parts falling from one of the plane's engines. Passenger Haley Ebert told the New York Times she heard a huge bam as parts of the engine's casing flew off the engine. Everyone on our side flung open their windows just to see what it was, Ms. Ebert said. The casing to the engine had sort of flown off. There were pieces flying into the ocean, nuts and bolts flying out a little bit. A bolt hit the wing, and it just made this huge bam. Passenger Maria Falashi tweeted that it was the scariest flight of my life.
My favorite part of that whole robotic conversation was passengers flung open their windows. And you're flying on different planes than I fly on. But hey, fantastic for those people. They arrived safely. Pilot did a great job. But a little bit more entertainment than they had bargained for when it came time for flying. All right, let's move on to our feel-good story of the week. And a couple times during season 1 and already in season 2, I've mentioned the Jasper family. Jarren Jasper, the young man who was waiting for a heart transplant. His father, Ivan Jasper, is the offensive coordinator at the Naval Academy. Well, just as by way of an update here in the feel-good story part, he has done really, really well. These are headlines from a little bit while ago. And this is a picture of Ivan and his wife and Jarren and him being released He's been released from the hospital. All the tests and everything else went fantastic. The body has accepted it to this point. The heart, and what a fine young man. Proud parents. A happy ending. Hopefully a continued happy ending. And this was put out by Navy Athletics via Barb Niumatalolo, the wife of the head coach, Ken Niumatalolo. Test results from the biopsy were negative. All our prayers have been answered. Hallelujah. Fantastic. Jarren strong. And that was a very happy Valentine's Day for the Jasper family. Great shot there of Jarren and his dad. And as always, the hashtag Jarren strong, and something that we should all emphasize at the end of this story is this: Donate Life. It's an organization, and I know when I did my my driver's license here in the state of Georgia, I had the option, check that box, donate organs. Very important. You're not going to need them after you're done with them, and there's somebody out there. It could save a life. It could give the gift of sight. It could give every kind of gift you can imagine. Donate organs. All right. I want to thank y'all for joining us. I want to emphasize the fact, if you have any questions or any suggestions, it's producer@unsafespacesusa.com. That's producer@unsafespacesusa.com. If on the social media side you want to find us, pretty easy. YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Facebook, Twitter. Go to randycross.com. Go to unsafespacesusa.com. All right? End of the show. That means it's time for some happy trails.
Happy trails.